All right, so now for question number 1, it says find the decimal form of the rational number if it repeats, then indicate in the bar. Now this one you can just do on your calculator. Obviously, we all know that this is the same as 9 divided by 2. And we could say 4 times 2 equals 8, right? And that leaves us with a remainder of 1. And then what we would say is 4 plus 1, the remainder over the divisor, which is 2, which is 4.5, right? And we could have done that another way, too. We could have put the decimal here, put down an extra 0, right? We could have done that. And then 2 goes into 10. That's a positive 10. 5 times, and then that would give us 10, right? You guys remember how to do that? Or you could just do it on the calculator. We could go 9 divided by 2, and the calculator would do it, all right? On a standardized test, you just do the calculator. Just make sure you hit the right number, right? So 4.5, correct, good job. Next question. For number 2, it just says, use the inequality to describe the interval of real numbers. So x lives in the middle here. We have a lower boundary of -9, and we have an upper boundary of -2. The lower boundary is yeah, because we got this bracket, then it's less than or equal to. Now, because we have parentheses here, it's just less than. Okay, so then that one would be, which? B? D? Let's see. Oh, yep, good job. That is what it is. Any questions? Oh, we're cooking with gas. Number 3, now we have the same thing. We have a lower boundary of 2 and of 6. X lives in the middle. Parentheses here. So that gets the less than, and then because of the bracket, we include the equal sign. So this gets translated. It's nice when you graph it this way because then you just put 2, 6, and that's your answer. So it'd be C. Any questions on that? No. All right. This one we got to do. We got to explain in real words. So I like to graph them just to kind of wrap my head around it. I've got a lower boundary of -5, an upper boundary of 8. X lives in the middle. I have a bracket here and parentheses here, and this is where my x lives. So all real numbers greater than -5 and less than or equal to 8, is that true? No. All real numbers less than or equal to -5 and greater than 8? No. All real numbers greater than or equal to -5 and less than 8? Yeah. Yep, that's it. Boom, we'll bam with the bacon sizzle. Any questions? I said, we'll bam with the bacon sizzle. All right, here we go. I'm leaving that in the video, by the way. Number 5, use the interval notation. Now, I dinged you guys on the first test because you used the wrong notation. Sometimes you graphed it, and you didn't use the interval notation. Sometimes you use inequalities. Interval notation is going to be parentheses or brackets, all right? John is at least 32 years old. So x and 32, at least means he's how old? Pick a number that makes that statement true. If he was 50, would he be at least 32? Yeah, so x has to be greater than, could he be 32? Yeah, so we include it. So now, here's an interesting thing. If we graph this on a number line, I have 32, and we said 50 would make it true. But any number greater than 50 would make it true. So I could graph it like this. You gotta make that noise. All the way up to infinity. Not that somebody would live that long. Right? So it would have to be 32, comma. We always use parentheses on infinity because infinity is not a number. It's a concept that represents going on forever. And that means we can't include it because you can't include the end because the end doesn't end. Does that make sense? All right. So then the answer is A. Woo. Good job. Any questions? We are flying through the stuff. Identify the base. What's the base? -4. It's whatever you're raising to a power. So let's try D. Oops, gotta put the marker down. D. Wait a minute. Now, why is it 4?
Because it's the base.
Yeah, because there's a difference. If it was written like this, then the base would be -4, but it's not. When you write -4 raised to the 9, if you follow the order of operations, exponents come before multiplication. That negative in front of the 4 raised to the 9 is like multiplying it by -1. that make sense?
Yeah.
So our base is actually 4. Whew, good thing I caught that. Alrighty. Oh man, that looks hard. So let's multiply the numbers on the top. What's 2 times 20?
40.
40, good job. What's a to the 7 times no a to the 7? A to the 7. B to the 6 times b to the 2? Is it 12 or 8? Do we add or multiply? It's 8 because we add. Because if I were to write that out, it'd be b times b times b 6 times. And then times b 2 more times. That would leave me with 8 b's, right? And then on the bottom, 4 times 1 is 4. 1a, 3 a's. How many a's? And then how many b's? Good job. So now we do the little canceroo. Which one's bigger, 7 or 4? So I'm going to have some stuff left over. How many? 3. 7 minus 3. What's bigger, 8 or 11? So I'm going to have some left on the bottom here. So if I minus 8 here, minus 8 here. What's 40 divided by 4? Yeah, so it'd be 10 over 1. We don't need to write the 1. So I've got 10. So this cancels and this cancels. A to the 3. And what goes on the bottom? All right, do we have one of those? B? Cool. Any questions? All righty. Right. Oh man, that looks hard. All right, so I'm going to say 8, 5, 7, 1. I have to have it between 0 and 10 for the first part of the notation, and then times 10 to some power. Okay? So I'm going to move the decimal place here because 8 is between 0 and 10. How many places did I move it? So it's this times 10 to the third. Now what if I were to move it the other way? What if I had a decimal point? Negative. Good, good, good. So it might change on the real test. But you guys are correct. Man, you're smart. All right. So now here, I start with my 5.67. And how many spaces do I move the decimal and why?
3.
Which way?
3 to the right.
1, 2, 3. Uh-oh.
Yeah,
At a 0. So it's 5,670. Is that good? So right now, you guys would be almost guaranteed a 33% on your test.
This is a lot easier.
Well, it's easier because of the quiz. You have the coordinate points on the graph. So what's this one? How do we?
Is this the like the right test? This is so easy. The quiz was not this easy.
Negative 2, 1.
No, 4.
6.
Negative
6, negative 6.
That's an 8.
That's an 8? That's a 6.
That's a 6.
6, negative 6. 6, comma, negative 6.
You know what? We did 10. Now let's do 11. What quadrant does this live in?
So 2. No,
So we got quadrant 1, we got quadrant 2, we got quadrant 3, and 4. How do I graph this?
Oh no,
Well, I go over 17, so this is like 17 units, and then I go down 17, so it's right here. What quadrant is that?
4.
Oh, good job. What's hilarious is you guys are like, this is so easy. Here we go. All right, what's this?
it's an expression.
Negative 4 over 4.
Yeah, so what's the,
Negative 1.
what is the absolute value of negative 4?
Be negative 1.
All right, cool.
Which B?
Any questions?
Press that.
No.
All right. This one we need to do the distance, so we're going to use the distance formula, x sub 1, y sub 1, x sub 2, y sub 2. So the distance is equal to y sub 2 minus y sub 1 squared plus x sub 2 minus x sub 1 squared.
Thanks, toolbox.
So now I got to plug those in. So I've got 4 minus 2 plus negative 4 minus 4 squared. This becomes 2 squared, which is 4. This becomes negative 8 squared, which is 64. Now here's an interesting thing. This is equal to
Negative, or
68. And then we got to think: is there a perfect square that goes into that? I think 4 does. So like 2 squared equals 4, and so 4 times 17 is actually 68. So this can be the square root of 4 times the square root of 17, which is 2 root 17. Is that right? That is right. Are there any questions? Does that make sense? So when you get to this point, remember guys, when you get to this point, start thinking, what goes into it? You got to think perfect square. And if one of these numbers goes into it, 4, 9, 16, then we rewrite it this way, and then we can always reduce the perfect square. And that's how you simplify radicals. Okay? We're going to do a lot of that this year. So if you're a little fuzzy on that, come talk to me, and we'll get you squared away. It just takes...
Squared away.
That's funny. Get it? All right, here we go. Oh man, that looks hard. All right, this is the one that some of you guys struggle with this on the quiz. Remember that we're going to take the x's, and then we're going to take the y's, and find the average of the two. So for the first part, I'm going to say negative 9 halves plus 7 halves all over 2. And then for the second part, I'm going to say negative 5 halves plus negative 3 halves all over 2. And then that kind of completes the midpoint. So you guys added the fractions right. So like this one would be negative, this one would be negative 2.
Over 2.
Right? But some of you guys forgot to put it over 2. Right? And that's where this was just simple arithmetic mistakes. A lot of people miss that. This would be negative 8 over 2. All right, so then that reduces down to, this becomes negative 1 over 2, so this is negative 1/2. This reduces down to negative 4 over 2, which reduces to negative 2, right? Because negative 4 divided by 2 is negative 2. So then, and so when I don't give you guys multiple choice, some of you guys just chose this as your answer, or you would reduce it down and say it was like negative 1, comma, negative 4. And you totally forget about the negative, or the dividing by 2 again. So anyways, this is the answer, okay? And let's do one more, and then we'll call it a day, and I'll give you some time to work on your stuff in class.
But we didn't get to the hard ones.
Well, I'll finish those today,
Oh.
okay?
Wait, can we just finish this? Because I would prefer that. Yeah, this is helping me.
Well, I kind of got it. All right, so this one we got to graph and plot the points. We can plot them on the line. What is it asking us to do? So we have some data here. It says the number of Y computers in the thousands sold in a certain state for each year, blah, 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 blah. It's given in the table below. And then we got to graph it. So in 1994, this one's going to be kind of tricky to do. In 1994, the first point is 15.7. So now if we look at A, it can't be A because this is way higher. 15.7 is about here, right? And so this point, our first point should be here, so it's not A, is it? Nope. So we'll erase that off the list. What about B? Does that look like 15.7? What about C? No. What about D?
Yes.
So it's between B and D. Let's go back up. Second point, 21.2. Is that a little bit more than? Yeah. Yeah, it's really hard to tell. Third one, 1996, 29.3. B, does that look at 29? So if we look at this, does this look about right? 29.3 in 1996? Yeah. So that one looks pretty good. Yeah, I got to get down there, but yep, you're right. See, D is wrong because it should be right here, right? All right. So what's the answer then?
B.
B. Could you do this on the test?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Cool. All right. Find the equation of a circle. So remember that the equation of the circle is x minus h
And then there's a K.
plus. Tell me the rest then.
Y minus K equals something squared.
R squared. So what is the HK business?
The X and the Y.
Yeah, it's the X and the Y of the
Why is there a
center.
and then X and Y?
And then what is R?
Radius.
The radius.
Why? What does H and K stand for?
We just used those letters. They were next up on the list.
Those two.
It doesn't. I don't know if it stands for anything. But we just use them on the list. Sometimes we'll use P and Q. Sometimes we'll use R and T and S and all that. So anyway, so if I write this, I have X minus 2, and then we have Y minus positive 5 squared, and then our radius is 4, so I put 4 squared. Now if I clean this up, I get X plus 2 squared plus Y minus 5 squared is equal to 16, right? So which one's that? Very good. Any questions on that?
No.
All right, cool. Moving on to the next one. What's the distance between? Uh-oh.
The distance between A, B, equals absolute value of A minus.
Well, the distance equals 7, so where does the 7 have to be? Inside the brackets or outside?
Outside.
Yeah, so it's usually like x minus, it's x minus some value, right, is equal to the distance. I can't remember. Did your textbook call that h?
It was A, I thought.
Oh, was it a? Because textbooks, they always use a different variable, but the distance is always on the outside, and it's always positive. So it can't be a, right? It's not a. It's definitely not a, because we don't have a 7 here. And it's not B. So it's either C or D. Which one is it?
D. No.
No, it's not D.
Darn
It's
it.
C.
How-
It's C.
I had 50-50 chance and I failed.
Yeah.
That's the story.
So this is the A term, and this is the distance, okay? Any questions on that? Good, good, good. Keep going. Which values are solutions to this? So basically we've got to solve this, or you can plug it in. I like to solve it, so I'm going to say the square root of 4 minus x squared plus, whoops, plus 3 is equal to 5. So now if I solve this algebraically, I'm going to subtract 3 from both sides, and I get this is 2, and I get the square root of 4 minus x squared. Then what do I do to get rid of the square root?
You have to
Square.
I square everything, right? I raise this to the 2, raise this to the 2. That gives me 4 minus x squared is equal to 4. Now what?
Minus that 4.
Minus the 4.
I did not know you were supposed to do that. That's interesting.
Negative x squared is equal to 0. Then what?
Gotta divide by
Yeah, divide by negative 1, and I get x squared is equal to 0. What's the solution? C. Only C. X
Wait,
equals
so
0.
whenever you have like a little square root, you just square both sides and get you a square root.
Yep. So whenever we solve an equation, whatever's being done to x, to solve for x, we just do the inverse operation. So if we're taking the square root, then to get x by itself, we do the opposite of that, which is to square it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. No. Well, that's why we're reviewing.
Rid of an x cubed.
Oh, Molly has a good question.
How do you get rid of an x
Cube root. Right? So the question is, what if you have something like that, or well, you could have a cube root of smiley face, and so to get rid of that, I would just cube the whole thing.
Oh.
Right? Does that make sense? Okay. Good question. All right, let's do this next one. You guys ready? Determine whether the equation is linear or not.
Ooh, 50-50.
Fred, what's your guess?
Yeah. What's your guess?
No.
I'm going with B.
All right. So now here's what we could do. Let me show you a little something. -8. We gotta try to reduce it and see what's going on. I'm gonna say no off the bat, but I'm gonna go through the process anyway.
Your answer is yes, right?
So now I've got 3x squared minus 2.6x is equal to -8, or 3x squared. That looks like a 3. Minus 2.6x plus 8 equals to 0. Yeah, that's definitely not linear, right?
Definitely.
Oh, I hit yes just to mess with you guys.
How do you know it's not linear for sure?
Well, sometimes you can reduce it, and the x squareds will reduce down to just x, and then it's linear. So that's why Mr. Adams went through that process of simplifying.
Oh, there can't be any x squared. Right.
Linear means x raised to the first power.
Okay.
Okay? Anything other than that is not linear. So x to the 1/4, not linear. X to the 0, not linear. X to the 2, not linear. Okay? So, but they'll try to trick you because sometimes you can factor things, and once you simplify the equation, if it reduces down to x to the first power, then it's linear. But if it doesn't reduce down to that, then it's not linear. Does that make sense? All right, here we go. Solve the equation. So for this one, I've got 55b plus 35 is equal to 15b. What do I do? I'm going to minus 15b from both sides. And this gives me 40b plus 35 is equal to 0.
Minus 35.
40b is equal to negative 35. Divide both sides by this. I get b is equal to negative 35 over 40. Both of those reduce down by 5, so I get negative 7 over 8. Oh, bam with the bacon sizzle.
So that's just really
All right. Next one. Oh man, that looks hard. We got to solve this inequality by subtracting 2 from both sides. When I do that, I get x is greater than 1. So I'm just going to do this, and b matches that. Right?
So this is what our test is going to be like, these questions?
Yeah, different numbers. You guys know how to do this stuff, right?
All.
This is
So if you've got all these correct, you're coming in at a 66%. No, don't applaud that. All right, so now how do I solve this one? If I say 6x plus 10 all over 11 is greater than or equal to negative 4, what do I do first?
Ooh, it's not.
Multiply by 11, because we're going to undo what's being done to x. It's being divided by 11, so we're going to multiply. This cancels with this. I get 6x plus 10 is greater than or equal to negative 44.
Subtract 10.
Subtract 10.
Wait, no.
Oh, no, it's 34, right?
You're at the
54. What am I doing?
It's not equal.
You call yourself
What kind of math teacher am I?
PhD canceled.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Oh, wait, it doesn't equal that. Somehow I lost my inequality. Yikes. All right.
Wait.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I deserve it. All right. Next one.
So we didn't get a slushy.
By the way, I just want to remind you guys I'm recording. So this one, what do I, if it says perpendicular, how do I write an equation? Yes?
You have to equate into y equals mx plus b, and then you have to flip the slopes as reciprocal and then.
Excellent. She said you have to rewrite it to y equals mx plus b, whatever m is. We got to rewrite it as 1 over m, and it's the negative reciprocal. So let's do that. What a smart girl. So we're going to do this, and we get negative 5y is equal to negative 8x minus 25. Divide by negative 5. And all this stuff cancels, and I get y is equal to 8 over 5x plus 5. Now we did all that because we need this number, right?
Negative 5x.
So then our perpendicular slope is negative 5 over 8. Now I use the point slope form to make sure it goes through this point. So can I erase this real quick?
Yeah.
All right. So now I'm going to use the Adams point slope form, which is y equals mx minus x sub 1 plus y sub 1, where this is x sub 1, y sub 1. And so that gives me y is equal to negative 5 over 8 times x minus 5 plus negative 3. So that gives me y is equal to negative 5 eighths x. Then when I multiply it through, I get negative 25 eighths. And then I've got minus 3 here. Now, what is it that we don't like about this so far?
Too big.
The fraction. Can I get rid of the fraction? No, I can't really get rid of it. And so I need to, and the answer is in fractions, right? So what is the same? Like negative 3 is equal to something over 8.
24 over 8.
Yeah, If you multiply this by 8, that gives you 8. But whatever you do on the bottom, you have to do on the top. So it's negative 24 over 8. So this whole thing changes to negative 24 over 8. That reduces down to negative 3, right? What's 25 and 24?
Or, no, that's 49.
Negative 49, right? So my new equation is y is equal to negative 5/8 x minus 49 over 8. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Which one's that?
D.
Very good. You guys are smart, smart, smart.
Thank you.
Think.
Hey, you know, I helped out.
Yeah, just a little.
Parallel line, what do I do?
Same thing, just not reciprocal.
Same thing, just not reciprocal. So now I'm going to do this again. I'm going to subtract 5x from both sides. I get 6y is equal to negative 5x plus 33. Divide by 6, divide by 6, divide by 6. This goes away, and I get y is equal to negative 5/6x plus 33. 6. Do I care about this? No, just this. So what's my slope then for the parallel line? The same, right? For parallel, it's the same. Right? So now I'm going to take that, plug that into my equation.
Y minus n equals negative 5.
Yep, so I'm going to say y is equal to m times x minus x sub 1 plus y sub 1, or y is equal to negative 5/6 times x minus 3 plus 10. Y is equal to negative 5/6 x minus 15 over 6 plus 10. Now, what's 10 if I rewrite that? Yeah, something over 6. In other words, 10 over 1, I want to make it equal something over 6. 60, right? And that comes from, I'm going to multiply this by 6, and whatever I do on the bottom, I have to do to the top. So then this becomes 60 over 6. And so when you add that up, you actually get y is equal to negative 5/6 x plus, oh wait, minus. So what is that?
75.
Isn't that 45? 60 minus 40, or 15 is plus 45? 45 over 6. But as I look at the end, well, first of all, can I reduce 45 over 6?
Yeah.
Yeah, what does that become?
No, not 3.
If you divide both the top and bottom by 3, this becomes 2. 15 over 2. Yeah, so it's really y is equal to negative 5/6 x plus 15 over 2. Is that correct? Wait, I don't see that. Uh-oh. SpaghettiOs. Oh, you know what I did? I messed up. What's negative 5 times negative 3? Positive. So this changes to 75 over 6. And if we come over here, we say 75 over 6. And then that becomes 25 over 2, right?
Good catch, Mr. Adams.
Well, I've done this once or twice. So what answer is that?
Oh,
Joey, finish up the